In the 90s and 2000s, childcare expert Gina Ford became a household name after recommending several controversial parenting techniques.
One of those techniques was the controlled crying method, where Gina advised millions of parents not to comfort their babies at night and instead let them cry it out. But in her first interview in almost 20 years, Gina has now clarified that this should only be done as a last resort.
Controlled crying is a very divisive parenting method. We're joined in the studio now by two mums, Lucy Cavendish and Annette Kellow, who both have very different views on the matter. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Annette, you've got one child who is 5 years old. Lucy?
I have 4 children.
4, and they're much older.
Yes, because I'm much older. Not that much older.
But your parenting would have certainly been in the sweet spot for Gina Ford.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of everybody having the book, everybody talking about the book, and everybody talking about the methodology.
Yeah, absolutely. When I had my second children in 2003 and 2004, so number 1 and number 2, number 3, everyone had Gina Ford. And so I had Gina Ford.
What was your take on it then?
Well, first child, exhausted, got to the second child and thought, I need some help, got the book, tried the book, absolutely couldn't do it. Every bone in my body, nerve ending, wants to pick my children up when they cry. I put them in a separate room. That felt, inhumane and barbaric. So within about, a day, I'd put them back in my bed and everyone was happy and everyone was joyous. And was a very hands-on, tactile, warm, loving parent. I'm not saying that you're not loving your baby. I'm not saying that, because mothers get enough without people telling them they're not loving. But for me, I really, really just want my instincts were to hold my babies and,
Yes.
stroke them.
Yes.
Calm them.
Understandable.
Calm them, yeah, absolutely.
Annette, you have one child, he's 5. You read the Gina Ford book. How did your approach go?
Well, while I appreciate it's different strokes for different folks, for me personally, I'm a single parent and I needed to find a quick and efficient routine to get me back into the zone. Now, it's not that I would let him cry for hours on end. It was a small amount. And for me, I sort of followed my mum's advice, where she had done it also. Obviously, not the Gina Ford, she hadn't followed the book, but she was kind of old school in that sense. And she said, a little bit of crying doesn't hurt. And for me, it did work. Within 2 weeks, he was in a routine. And dare I say it, I was selfish and had my life back.
I think we've lots of you getting in touch with this, and I think this perfectly encapsulates exactly how this works. I think you said, Lucy, different things for different parents.
100%.
Elizabeth said, I was so pleased the book was recommended to me. The routines worked, my babies were happy, and slept early on, which meant I got the rest I needed. Thank you, Gina Ford. But then Genevieve says, Gina's book was dreadful. I wish I'd never read it. As a young, vulnerable, first-time mother, this traumatised me.
Yes, OK. Yeah, lots and lots of different responses. So, I mean, I understand that people want their life back. I would say that actually having a baby is the most life-changing thing that's ever happened to me. I'm sure it's the same for other people. And so, actually, yes, we want our lives back, but the thing is, actually, for me, it was beginning to realise that it needed to be baby-led. Then actually, for a period of time, I wasn't going to get my life back. Eventually, you do get your life back. It's not the same life I had before. But, eventually they calmed down and slept and everything was fine. And I understand that people want some help to get some sort of control, but really, actually, it is all a bit out of control. And actually, to say what I really need to do is respond to my baby and respond to my needs for my baby. Once I gave up the idea I was going to sleep 8 hours a night and they were going to feed him...
But wasn't that one of your needs, though? You're saying
well, I mean, babies don't sleep 8 hours a night. They've got stomachs the size of walnuts. And babies are tiny. They've been in your body for 40 weeks. They come out and it's sort of a shock. They just want to be with you. This is what I feel. They just want to be with you because that's what they know. And they can't go, I don't believe they can go for hours on end because of their tiny, weeny tummies. And the other thing, if I have friends or family or my kids now who are crying or they're upset or they're sad, I don't just put them in another room and tell them, I'll be there in an hour. I go and tend to them.
Yeah.
So I feel it's important.
But when you are saying about the feeding, I mean, I read the book too. I didn't employ all of it. For me, it felt much more beneficial to take areas of it that I really like the idea of and to keep going with that. But I have a husband, I had help. I can completely understand that that you had to kind of get back into a routine as quickly as possible. But in the Gina Ford book, it does actually say, feed now, feed yourself now, put them in a room. Like,
really
this time, it's very strict. So how did you get on doing that? Did you actually like how strict it was?
For me personally, I didn't mind how strict it was, in the sense that I wasn't completely like, I have to follow this. If I don't follow this, I'm a terrible person. Oh my goodness. I mean, one of the things I used to do, for example, the 7 p.m. thing, I'd put my son down, but then I'd be like, oh, I had a little pub on the corner. And so me and my friend would go to the pub, put the baby in the pram. It was a very quiet, nice pub. And we would go in there and have a little drink. And then I'd take him home, put him back in the cot, and it was all good for me. But I do appreciate that for some people, they may have the time as well to be able to do the sleeping. And I also feel that a lot of mums now are going back to work quite early on. And I do know somebody who didn't do any sleep training, and she went back to work quite early, and she actually fell asleep on the motorway. So for her, she then got a sleep consultant, and these sleep consultants and sleep trainers do often take elements of the Gina Ford to get it into a routine. It just depends on your lifestyle. Some people have the time and the resources, and other people don't.
Is there any concern for you, though, Annette, that there could be some long-term damage that's done by sort of trying to train your child to sleep in this way?
Yes, I mean, it's controversial. People do talk about it. Is there damage? Is there not? But I think generally mums get a bashing, whatever they do. Oh, my God, you didn't breastfeed. You're bad. You're going to damage your child. Oh, my God, you're not using recyclable nappies. I mean, we could go on and on. And if you think about it too much, you could go on a downward spiral, which would be quite depressing. So I don't think too much about it, and I think it's a positive.
Well, we actually have our poll results.
We do, yes. People do voting.
We've been asking people, what should you do? Should you let your baby cry it out? 68% said no. 32% said yes.
Goodness me, that's over 3,000 votes.
Yes. Well, it's a big subject.
Yes.
It's a big subject.
Yes.
I think Olivia says leaving your baby to cry whilst you take 2 minutes to compose yourself is completely different to leaving them cry themselves to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maria says, does it feel good when you cry helplessly alone?
Yeah, absolutely.
As a human. Lots of people say this book has absolutely saved my life. It's saved my relationship with my child. We did it with Sam and Jack, but to the point where actually Jack didn't sleep at all. It was a nightmare, so it didn't really work. But Sam was good as gold. So actually, different children react in different ways.
Yes.
Yeah, but there is a lot of research around attachment theory, which I'm not going to go into huge amounts now. But really, if babies cry for a long time, they go into distress, then actually what they do is they just stop crying. But a good baby doesn't necessarily mean it's a happy baby, a good baby.
Natalie, this was our experience, Natalie. My first child was a Gina Ford baby. He just went straight into a routine. My daughter came along and it all went out the window.
Do you know what else?
There you go.
I think the second child, you're so much more relaxed too.
For sure.
And I think that
But wait till you had a third one. My second
exactly,
one,
or a fourth.
easy. The third one was like they wouldn't even bother me. Oh yeah, absolutely triangulate.
They're all different. All babies are different. We reached out to Gina Ford and she made this statement for us. She says, I have always said that I respect that there are different ways for parents to approach feeding and sleeping, and my book was for parents who wanted a routine. There's nothing barbaric about ensuring your baby's needs are being met before they get into a state of stress or crying. People who claim this simply have not read the book. I fully understand that implementing a routine is not for everyone, hence the reason I have always made it very clear that I wrote the book for those parents who want a routine.
Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you, ladies.